funny, when Don and I were first together, we had dated for about a year before we actually moved in together. And I remember the first time when Dawn asked me to marry her, and I looked at her like she was crazy out of her mind. I'm like, what is that? I grew up in Ferdinand, where everyone's Catholic, and, Jasper has Catholic, and then all the others that Dawn's family's been a part of, most of those others, it seems like. And at that time, I was still, just checked out the Catholic church that was up there in Indianapolis, and, obviously not a good fit, but at that, shortly thereafter, we found, at that time, it was called Jesus Metropolitan Community Church, which was a church that was actually founded by gays and lesbians, in Christian faith to, as a safe place for people to worship. And we became very active in that church, and that's where we had our first Holy Union, which the church's name now is Life Journey Church. The pattern with a lot of churches now moving away from having their denomination in the name of the church. So, but he's only known really acceptance.
Well, my partner's a Baptist. And his ex-wife is a fundamentalist Christian. And I don't like to get into religious discussion for a lot of reasons. So, growing up with the kids, they grew up, they still go to their mother's church. And we had to deal with not only the fact that his dad's partner is a Jew, which separates me. I'm a minority within a minority. But are you all familiar with John Paul Sartre, the author? He wrote a book called he wrote a play called No Exit. And the last line of that play is, hell is other people. So not only did the kids have to go to church with people who would whisper to them, your dad's going to hell, because of who he is, they also had to endure comments about his partner being a Jew. So they went through an awful lot, and they both turned out to be wonderful people. But growing up with us, being surrounded by people who, for whatever reason, felt they needed to express their judgment to them when they were children, they've come full circle as adults and have no prejudices, no bigotries. They see the humanity in all people. So my point here is that in terms of our differences in faith and all that, the kids, they've only been to synagogue with me a couple of times. They didn't like it because they said it was boring. But the problem has always been other people expressing their particular religious judgment to our children. And I think it made them better people for having endured it and having had to listen to it and forming their own opinions about it. So there you are.
I was raised Catholic, but as an adult converted to Unitarian Universalism, which is an accepting and affirming church. When Elijah was very little, I lived in the Louisville area at the time. I lived away from Jasper for about 13 years, and took him there. And that was probably his first and greatest exposure to other gay families, seeing it in a very positive light, seeing people as just another family and just other kids. Again, I think it reaffirmed as he grew up the fact that it was no big deal. I feel strong in my faith. I don't feel. I mean, I guess it's aggravating to be judged by people of other faiths. But I guess I try to step back from it and as aggravating as it can be at times, try to remember that I think people really believe some of the things that they say, and I think it's important just to not engage, I guess, sometimes, because I'm not going to win that battle with some folks.
You know, my mother was Catholic, right? But when she passed away, I became Baptist. Been Baptist all my life. But after going to Baptist church and hearing the way that they feel about us and everything, I just totally went independent. I figure, okay, God hears me. I don't gotta be in a building full of people under a certain roof for God to hear. And the way I believe it is just like John 3:16. Everybody knows that verse.
We're still searching. We think we found a church we would consider going to as a family.
Here in Jasper.
Yeah, thanks to the thing you handed out at the last meeting. But I have no support from my parents down south, either side. My father's very sick, so I asked my stepmother, probably last year, I said, if I choose to do a civil union, do you think I should let my dad know? And she said, don't bother. My mother, she's wishy-washy on the subject. She thinks I'm going to hell because of, I have a same-sex partner. Me, on the other hand, I did not believe that. I don't feel like I'm condemned to hell because I love someone of the same sex. And so, I try not, I'm like some people, I try my best not to engage in religious talks with other people because they just don't understand, or it's just what you're brought up into, and it's just dwelt in your head of what to believe from a child all the way up. So I've tried to raise my children just to be more open-minded and go for what they want to believe.